Hi crafters, and welcome to Creative Moments by G. I'm G, and so happy that you're with us today. It is Technique Tuesday. Today we're going to work with a 6x6 sheet of pattern paper to create 4 cards, and we like to call that a one sheet wonder. So let's head down to the crafting table and let me show you how to do that. Make sure you stay with us because I'm going to show you 2 different sets of cards at the end that we have used a one sheet wonder to create. But first I want to give you a tip. Now let's say you're looking at your 6x6 sheets of patterned paper and you just don't know if it's going to look good because you have a lot of pattern paper to choose from. Let me give you a fantastic tip. Take an acrylic sheet, cut it into a 3-inch square. And now you're going to take your pattern paper that you thought you might use, and we're just going to hold it up right here over the patterned paper because this is the square that you'll be working with when you work with a 6x6. And we can see right here that has a lot of color to it. That would work well. We move it over here. This one would also work well, but when we bring it up to the top right or the top left, we see that there's not much going on there. And when you see what we're going to do with each 3x3 square, you'll see that you need a little bit more going on to make that a pretty card front. So make sure you cut this 3-inch square just to help you decide which pattern paper would create the prettiest card front. I selected this sheet, and as you can tell, that's going to be pretty in this bottom right. The bottom left is going to be pretty. The left front will be pretty. Each one of these 3-inch squares has something going on. So let's get to cutting. Bring in your trimmer. Take your 6x6 paper and go ahead and just cut it down on one side 3 inches. Now you can pull those apart and you can cut, or if you want to, just keep it together. Put it on the 3-inch mark. Make sure everything is still lined up and slice. So now we have our 4 squares. You're going to have one square that you just leave alone. So I think this one would be pretty. We'll just leave it a 3-inch square. Now we need another 3-inch square that we're going to cut into panels. We have one that we're going to cut into 4 squares, and then we have one that we'll cut diagonally. Well, I think this one would be pretty for the squares. So let's go ahead and take this 3-inch square and we're going to cut it at 1.5. Turn it, keep it together, put it right at 1.5 again. Make sure everything is lined up and slice. Now, keep those little squares together just like this. And now we still need our panels that we're going to cut and a diagonal. I think this one would make a lovely diagonal. So we're going to put that into our trimmer, and this time we're going to cut our diagonal from the right corner to the left bottom. I think that will be so pretty. Slice it. Let's bring it back. Line it up. There we have it. And now this one we are going to cut into 3 panels. And they are going to be 1-inch panels. So put it in your trimmer, put it right at 1 inch and slice. Bring it back to 1 inch and slice. Now let's look at what we have. Now we are going to use these 4 pieces to create beautiful card panels. Now, what you need to decide is what color would look best as your card. And I've decided peach pie is going to make a beautiful card. So I have created 4 cards. I created 2 landscape cards, and I want to remind you, all the measurements will be listed over on creativemomentsbyg.com. Just go there, click on my blog, and today's video. So we have 2 landscape cards. We've created 1 portrait card, and we have 1 top fold card. Now I say let's make the top fold first, and we are going to use our top fold for this beautiful diagonal piece. We need a square that we can spread this diagonal apart and stamp right here in the middle. We also want to mat the front of this card just to give it some more interest. Now you don't have to do that, but we want to do that. So we are bringing in, I think, some stripes. Look at these beautiful stripes. And it's petunia pop, so it goes with this beautiful flower right here that we have. And we want to make it a first mat. So we are just cutting it 4 by 5 1/4. Now, if you have directional paper, which we did, really be mindful of how you cut this mat. So let's go ahead and lay this down on our top fold. We're just going to bring our glue, add it to the back and add it to the front of our card. Now, we need to add this to a square because I want to go ahead and stamp a message right here. So you can add it to whatever color you want. I think we can add it to this beautiful peach pie. We're going to bring in some dimensionals, and we are just adding it to the back of these. And these are just scraps because we use everything on our dimensional pad. Now, we need to go ahead and stamp this. Now, I'm going to put down a piece of paper, and I'm bringing in this beautiful stamp that says happy birthday. And we're just going to line it up right here from corner to corner. And I'm going to bring in my Night of Navy. So, tap, tap, tap all the way across. Make sure that it's nice and inked up. And we're just going to line it from corner to corner. And hold it so that the ink can transfer. Look at how beautiful that looks. Now we can just lay our corner pieces down. So let's go ahead and do that. And look at how pretty that looks. So pretty. So let's bring in the front of our card. And let's go ahead and just center this and lay it down on the front. Here is our first card. Now let's go ahead and lay down our white mat on the inside. And to dress this up, you can use a piece of scrap paper to just put right here at the bottom of your mat. So let's do that. You can also stamp it with another message if you want. Let's move on to our second card. We're going to go ahead and use another top fold card because we're going to use these squares right here. Now on these squares, we're going to go ahead and double mat them. So let's mat them in some beautiful, pretty peacock as a coordinating color. So we need to cut the squares a little bit bigger. And we know that these squares are cut from a 3-inch square. So we're going to increase that just a little bit, and we're going to cut a 3 1/4 inch square. 3 1/4. Now, once we do that, we need to cut it in half and create our squares. So we're going to cut it. Half would be 1 5/8. So we're going to turn it and do 1 5/8 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Line them up and slice. Now, keeping them in the same position, we have just a very small border, but it's so pretty. So let's go ahead and lay all these down on their mat. We have our squares matted. Now, once again, let's go ahead and provide a map for the front of this card. And this time, let's change it up a little bit. Let's bring in these circles. And once again, we're going to go ahead and bring in some peach pie to lay these squares on. Now, you don't have to put all these layers on here. If you want to just lay these squares down, you can certainly do that. But I want them to pop just a little bit more, so I'm going to cut a square just to make it pop a little more. So it's going right here, just like this. So let's add our squares, and I'm going to set them up on dimensionals. Okay, flip them back over and just take off the backing and add them right to this square. Okay, now I'm going to cut this off a little bit right here. We're going to add this right to the front of our card. Now we need to go ahead and put our sentiment, and what I've decided to use is this postage die set. And I'm going to use the nested dies and just put the sentiment right here. So I'm going to use just a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment, and I'm getting it from this Labeled with Love. And it's Enjoy Today. So let's go ahead and bring in our Knight of Navy. And I'm just going to cut some pretty peacock as the mat. So we're just going to pop this out. And I'm going to raise this on a few dimensionals. And we're just going to glue this down to the front of our card. Now you can see that we just need glue right here in the corners. Look at our second card. Let's just add the inside mat. And let's move on to our third card. Let's do our panels. So we are going to cut, this time I think we will use this beautiful color right here called Berry Burst. So we know that we started out with a 3-inch square. So we are going to cut 3 3/4 by 3 1/4. We're then going to cut our 3 strips. And now let's glue them down. Look at that nice size border that we have. Let's glue each one of our panels down to their mat. Now we're going to take one of our landscape cards that we've created, and we are going to add another background to it just to give it some more dimension. Like I said, you don't have to do this. We're going to cut it at 4 5 1/4. And this is not directional, so I don't really have to pay attention to that. And I'm going to cut a strip right here just for the inside of it while I already have my trimmer out. And I think I want it about, 1/2 inch. So we'll just keep this to the side. Let's go ahead and lay down our mat. Now, I think I want a strip that goes across right here. So I'm just going to take a scrap piece of paper and I'm going to cut it at 5 1/4 and 1/2 inch. So let's just go ahead and cut that 1/2 inch. And let's cut this at 5 1/4. And now we can just lay this down. I just used some scrap paper to do this, just to give it some more interest. Now we're going to set these up on dimensionals. And now we're just going to take the backing off. Okay. Now the backing is off. Let me give you a tip when you're laying down panels to lay them straight. You can bring in your T-ruler, which will help you keep everything straight at the bottom, and just line it up, just like that, so it's lined up straight. But you still have to spread them evenly. So the best way to do that is to lay your end panels first. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down because I want a little bit of my panel to go below that line. So I'm going to bring it in about this much. And now I'm going to lay this other one right here. Then you can bring in your third panel to make sure you have the same distance right here. Then you're ready to push it down. And look at that. Nice and straight. But we still need our message right here. So we're going to take our scrap white paper that we used and we're going to stamp just for you. So let's bring in our Night of Navy. Tap, tap, tap. And for this one, I'm bringing in my stitched rectangle dies. I'm going to bring in this skinny one, line it up, and cut it out. And here it is. We'll just pop that out. And we're going to lay it right over that strip that we have, just like this. So we need just a little bit of glue right here. We're not going to set it up on any dimensionals. Just a little bit of glue. Line it right there. Now we're going to add the inside card. We're going to add this strip right to the bottom. This is just a scrap piece of patterned paper that we have. And here is our third card. We are now ready to make our final card from our 6x6 piece of patterned paper. Now our next card, we're just using this right here. So you could add a label to the front, but I think I want to go ahead and just stamp a message right there. Let me grab a bigger sentiment right here, sending hugs. Just put it on a block, bring in our Knight of Navy, and we're gonna stamp right on the front of this square. Now, you may have selected a pattern that you can't do that, but I can do it to this one. So let's go ahead and stamp it. Oh, look how pretty that is. We need to bring in our landscape card, just like this. We're going to go ahead and cut a piece of a lined paper. So I want my lines to be horizontal. So this needs to be 5 1/4 by 4. Just like this. Love these two colors together. Really makes it pop. And it all color coordinates. Look at this. It color coordinates just beautifully with that. But I want to go ahead and make it pop a little bit, so I'm going to cut a square that will mat this right here. So we know this is a 3 by 3, so I'm going to cut a 3 1/4, and I can still use those little scraps for later on just to border something. Turn it and do 3 1/4. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now I want to go ahead and put a strip right here of the berry burst. Let's see if I have enough. Yes, I do. This is just a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to cut 1/2 inch. I'm going to cut this at 5 1/4. Okay, it just gives it a little bit of interest before you put this down. Now I am going to put this up on dimensionals just to give it some additional height. Okay, let's add this right to the center. Just going to add this right to the front of our card. I'm going to add the inside mat. Okay, let's review our cards. Now look at this one, very simple. Then we have our panels that we created, another beautiful card front. We created our squares to go on the front of our card right here. And then we have our diagonal that we stamped our message. So take a moment and leave a comment. Which is your favorite of these 4 designs? Now, I want to show you the other designs that we have that use a different color. Now, here is our panel card, just using a different set of colors and that beautiful Blackberry Bliss. We finish the inside with the sentiment. We have our panel card in this color. Finish the inside. We have our small squares. Once again, that's a top fold, and we added our strips here. And then we have our diagonal. Look at that beautiful, beautiful gray kind of color of the background. And finally, we stepped it up just a little bit. Here is our diagonal. We added a butterfly. We added another mat just to change it up just a little bit. We also added some beautiful little gems right there. This is our square, just added a mat, added some beautiful butterflies, and look how we did this label. That's always a really cute way to do it. You just offset it, and it looks so cute. Added our butterfly on the inside. That goes in this column. Now on this one, we did our squares and we didn't double mat them. We just added them to a larger square and glued them down. Added some butterflies, the sentiment. And finally, our panels. This one's really stepped up. We embossed the background. Now look at how beautiful that is. We matted our panels, we added our strip, added a butterfly, raised our strip on some dimensionals. Definitely a stepped up, beautiful version. So take a moment and let us know which of the designs that you like the best. Do you like the color coordination of the butterfly, of the Blackberry Bliss, or the brighter light colors of the peach pie? We hope you enjoyed our 6x6 one-sheet wonder. Have fun with this design. You gotta make this.